Welcome to episode 455. Do you ever feel like you know what would support your well-being, but you just can't seem to follow through? In this episode, I'm exploring the hidden energy leaks that quietly drain our vitality every day, from overcommitment and people-pleasing to doom scrolling, decision fatigue, unresolved emotions, clutter, and irregular routines. We'll look at these patterns through the lens of Ayurveda and discover why protecting your prana may be the key to hearing your inner wisdom again. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette. And if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend starting with the first few episodes where I introduce the foundations of Ayurveda and the doshas. To learn more, work with me, or explore my offerings, you can visit elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And for podcast updates, join me on Instagram at Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. And before we begin, just a quick note to say that this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It's not intended as medical advice. Now let's dive into this episode. Hey there, and welcome back to the podcast. So in this episode, we're talking about something that I think affects almost everyone. Yet, we rarely speak about it directly. We're talking about energy leaks, not the obvious things like staying up too late or skipping meals. I'm talking about the subtle ways we drain our vitality every single day without even realizing it. The commitments we say yes to when we really mean no. The endless scrolling that leaves us feeling disconnected from ourselves. The clutter that quietly weighs on our mind. The decisions we make all day long until we're mentally exhausted. The emotions we've pushed aside because we didn't have time to feel them. The routines that are so inconsistent that our body never knows quite what to expect. These hidden energy leaks can leave us feeling tired, scattered, overwhelmed, and strangely disconnected from ourselves. And what makes them particularly challenging is that they're often disguised as normal life. Many of us have become so accustomed to these patterns that we don't even notice how much they're costing us. From an Ayurvedic perspective, every one of these leaks weakens our relationship with prana, the life force energy that animates us. Prana is much more than just physical energy. It's the intelligent force behind every breath, every heartbeat, every thought, every moment of awareness. It's what allows us to feel present, connected, inspired, and alive. When prana is abundant, we tend to experience greater clarity. Decisions come more easily. We feel more resilient when challenges arise. We have access to our creativity, our intuition, and our capacity to respond rather than simply react. But when prana becomes depleted or scattered, life can start to feel very different. We may feel disconnected from ourselves. We may find ourselves constantly seeking answers outside of ourselves because we no longer hear the wisdom within. We become more reactive, more distracted, and more likely to move through life on autopilot. Ayurveda teaches us that one of the primary roles of daily practices is not simply to improve health, but to cultivate and protect prana. Because when prana is strong, we don't just feel healthier, we feel more like ourselves. Prana is the bridge between the body, the mind, and our deeper awareness. And this is why these hidden energy leaks matter so much. It's not simply that they make us tired. They scatter our attention and fragment our awareness. They pull us away from the quiet inner place where wisdom naturally arises. And when our energy is leaking in 10 different directions, it becomes very difficult to hear the quiet wisdom within. It becomes difficult to know what we truly need, difficult to trust ourselves, and difficult to live Ayurveda consistently. So today I want to explore some of the most common energy leaks I see, both in my clients and in myself, and share some reflections on how we can begin reclaiming our energy. Because sometimes transformation doesn't come from adding more practices. Sometimes it comes from stopping the things that are draining us. So let's go through some of these energy leaks. Let's begin with one of the biggest energy leaks of all, overcommitment. Many of us are carrying far more than we were ever meant to. We say yes because we want to help, because we don't want to disappoint people, or because we think we'll somehow find the energy later. But every commitment we make requires energy, even the ones we genuinely want to do. Every obligation occupies a small piece of mental space. Every unfinished task sits somewhere in the background of our awareness. And eventually, the nervous system becomes overloaded. In Ayurveda, balance requires spaciousness. There needs to be room to digest our experiences, just as Ayurveda tells us not to eat to full capacity because there needs to be room to digest our food. Yet many of us move from one responsibility to the next without any pause in between. One question I often ask myself is this: what would happen if I stopped treating my energy as unlimited? Because that's how we often live, as though tomorrow's energy is already guaranteed and our body will somehow keep up no matter how much we ask of it. But our energy is precious, and every time we honor its limits, we're practicing self-respect. Energy leak number 2. People-pleasing. Closely connected to overcommitment is people-pleasing. And this can be a particularly sneaky one because it often looks like kindness. But there is a difference between kindness and abandoning yourself. People-pleasing asks, what do they need from me? Whereas self-awareness asks, what is true for me? When we constantly prioritize other people's comfort over our own authenticity, we create an internal split. Part of us learns that being accepted is more important than being genuine. And that creates a tremendous amount of tension. Many people tell me that they want greater clarity. They want to know their purpose. They want to hear their intuition. But if we're constantly scanning the environment for what everyone else wants, we stop listening inward. We lose contact with our own inner guidance. The truth is that every unnecessary yes often comes with a hidden no. A no to rest, to presence, to something that genuinely matters. And over time, those hidden no's accumulate. If people-pleasing is a pattern you recognize in yourself, I explore this topic in much more depth in episode 446, titled People-Pleasing and the Nervous System. Energy leak number 3, doom scrolling and digital overload. Let's talk about our phones, or perhaps I should say our tiny pocket-sized energy drains. Now, technology isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's what allows many of us to connect, learn, and run our businesses. But there is a difference between using technology and being consumed by it. Many of us reach for our phones without intention. A few minutes becomes 20 becomes an hour, and when we finally put the phone down, we often feel more depleted than before. Ayurveda teaches that the mind takes on the qualities of what it repeatedly consumes. If we're constantly consuming fragmented information, the mind itself becomes fragmented. If we're constantly consuming fear, outrage, and urgency, our nervous system begins to mirror those qualities. This doesn't mean you need to throw your phone away. It simply means becoming more conscious and bringing awareness to how you feel before you pick up your phone, and then checking in with how you feel afterwards. Awareness often reveals what willpower cannot. Energy leak number 4, physical and mental clutter. Most people think clutter is simply a physical issue, but clutter is also energetic. Every unfinished pile, overflowing drawer, and every corner of the home that silently whispers, "You still need to deal with me?" It all requires attention, and attention is energy. Ayurveda recognizes the powerful relationship between our external environment and our internal state. When our surroundings feel chaotic, the mind often feels chaotic too. This does not mean your home needs to resemble a minimalist magazine spread. Perfection is not the goal. The goal is creating an environment that supports clarity rather than drains it. Sometimes clearing one drawer can create more mental space than reading another self-help book. Small shifts matter. Energy leak number 5, decision fatigue. Modern life requires an extraordinary number of decisions every day. What to wear, what to eat, which email to answer first, what to buy, what to watch, what to post, what to prioritize. The list never ends. Every decision requires mental energy. And by the end of the day, many people feel exhausted, not because they've worked harder than previous generations, but because they've made hundreds of tiny decisions. This is one reason Ayurveda places such importance on routine. Routine is not about rigidity. It's about conservation. When certain aspects of life become rhythmic and predictable, we free up mental energy for what truly matters. This is why Dinacharya can feel so supportive. When these Ayurvedic self-care practices are on autopilot, it reduces internal friction. The body begins to know what comes next, the mind relaxes, and energy is preserved. Energy leak number 6, unresolved emotions. This may be one of the biggest hidden leaks of all. The emotions we never fully process. The grief we keep postponing. The resentment we carry, the disappointment we have not acknowledged, the conversations we need to have, but avoid. Many of us have become highly skilled at functioning. We keep moving, producing, and checking things off the list. But emotions do not disappear simply because we ignore them. They continue consuming energy beneath the surface. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater all day long. Eventually you become exhausted, not because the beach ball is heavy, but because maintaining the suppression requires constant effort. The same is true emotionally. Healing doesn't always require fixing everything immediately. Sometimes it begins with simply acknowledging what is there, naming it, feeling it, shining a light on it, and giving it space. And finally, energy leak number 7. Let's talk about irregular routines. One day we wake up at 6, the next at 8:30. Some days we eat lunch at noon. Other days we skip it entirely. One week we meditate daily. The next week, not at all. Modern life often celebrates flexibility, but the body thrives on rhythm. Our digestion loves rhythm. Our hormones love rhythm, and our nervous system loves rhythm. Ayurveda has understood this for thousands of years. When routines become erratic, the body must constantly adapt, and adaptation requires energy. This is particularly true for vata imbalances. The more irregular life becomes, the harder it is to feel grounded, focused, and clear. Simple consistency often creates more transformation than occasional perfection. As you listen to these energy leaks, you may recognize one or two, or perhaps several. The important thing is not identifying everything that's wrong. It's simply becoming aware, because awareness is where change begins. I often think that one of the greatest challenges of modern life is not the lack of information. It's the lack of energy. Most people already know what would support their well-being. They know they'd feel better with more rest, more presence, nourishing food, and more consistency. But when energy is leaking everywhere, it's difficult to follow through. And perhaps even more importantly, it's difficult to hear yourself. It's difficult to hear your intuition, the inner wisdom, and your authentic needs. The quieter voice beneath all the noise. When we're exhausted, overwhelmed, and distracted, we often lose touch with that voice. And yet it never disappears. It simply becomes harder to hear. So this week, rather than asking yourself what you need to add to your life, I recommend you ask yourself a different question. Where is my energy leaking? What is quietly draining me? What am I carrying that no longer needs to be carried? Because every energy leak you close creates more space for healing, for clarity, for connection, and more space to simply be yourself. Thank you so much for listening today. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear which energy leak you recognize most strongly in yourself. Come and share in the Elements of Ayurveda podcast community or connect with me on social media. On Instagram, it's Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. And on Facebook, it's Elements Healing and Wellbeing. And if you'd like support on your journey with Ayurveda, check out my online offerings on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And if you have questions before booking, take advantage of my free 15-minute services inquiry call, and we can discuss which of my services best suits your needs. And don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast so the new episodes automatically download for you. And if you'd like to leave a rating or review, I would deeply appreciate it. Until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and remember that Ayurveda is not about doing more. Sometimes it's about releasing what stands between you and your natural state of balance. Bye for now. Slán go fóill.